taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? So much so that you don't want to be around each other. No, before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate? You should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God gave you?
Malcolm X, born Malcolm Little in 1925, had a tumultuous youth that led him down a dark path in his early years. He was involved in crime, including drug dealing, robbery, and gambling. This ultimately led to his arrest in 1946 at the age of 21. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison for burglary. But it was within the confines of the prison where his life would be changed forever. During his time behind bars, Malcolm spent countless hours reading and educating himself on subjects ranging from history to philosophy. There, he first encountered the teachings of the Nation of Islam. Malcolm was introduced to the teaching of Elijah Muhammad, the leader of the Nation of Islam, through his siblings and correspondence with members. The nation's message of black empowerment, self-reliance, and rejection of racial oppression resonated deeply with Malcolm. It gave him a sense of purpose and identity that had been absent for much of his life. Embracing the teachings of the nation, Malcolm adopted the name Malcolm X to symbolize his lost African heritage. He became a devout member, and upon his release from prison in 1952, he emerged as one of the most passionate advocates for black rights, urging black Americans to assert their dignity and fight for justice. His influence quickly grew. As a spokesman for the Nation of Islam, he advocated for the separation of black and white Americans, and his powerful speeches rallied millions. He spoke out against systemic racism and injustices faced by African Americans, inspiring a new generation to stand up for their rights. Malcolm's impact after prison wasn't just national, it was global. His travels to Africa and the Middle East broadened his perspective on race and politics. He began recognizing the global struggle for human rights and shifted his focus to the unity among all oppressed peoples. This shift ultimately led to his break with the Nation of Islam in 1964. Though his life was tragically cut short in 1965, Malcolm X's legacy endures. His transformation from a youth criminal to a powerful voice for social change demonstrated the power, self-education, faith, and the capacity of personal reinvention. His ideas continue to inspire movements for racial equality and justice today. For the confines of a prison cell, Malcolm X changed the world, and doing so, changed himself. His journey reminds us all that our past does not define our future, and that the pursuit of truth and justice can transform even the most broken lives.
The Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, under its counterintelligence program titled COINTELPRO, had been monitoring Malcolm X for years. COINTELPRO was designed to undermine the civil rights movement. It targeted black leaders like Malcolm X, but also targeted black leaders such as Martin Luther King Jr., and organizations such as the Nation of Islam and the Black Panther Party. At the time of Malcolm's assassination, there was significant internal conflict within the Nation of Islam. After he departed from the NOI, the Nation of Islam, he was openly critical of its leadership, particularly Elijah Muhammad. Some believe that this division within the Nation of Islam created a climate of animosity that led to his murder. There are claims that members of the NOI may have been influenced or even assisted by external entities such as the FBI or other law enforcement who had a vested interest in maintaining the status quo and preventing Malcolm's growing influence. On the day of Malcolm X's assassination, security at the Audubon Ballroom was alarmingly relaxed, despite the high profile of the event and threats against his life. Witnesses report that police officers were either absent or failed to intervene during the shooting. Some argue that this could indicate complicity, or at the very least, negligence on the part of law enforcement, allowing the murder to occur without interference. Just 1 year ago, a man by the name of Khalil Saeed was interviewed by Democracy Now!, the news station. Khalil was one of Malcolm's loyal bodyguards that served to protect his house and was there on the day of many of his events. He claims to have been falsely arrested just 5 days before the assassination. Khalil was one of many, he says, that he would have been there to protect Mr. X had he not been in jail. Another man by the name of Raymond Wood, a black police officer who served at the time of Malcolm's killing, has later admitted to police involvement in the death of Malcolm X. Told that if he was to repeat what the police had planned to anyone, that he would join Malcolm in death. His brother took to the news 3 years ago, sharing Raymond Wood's story, stating that 3 men, all of whom would have been part of Malcolm's security the day he was killed, were arrested for what is known as the Statue of Liberty plot. It was a scheme to blow up the Statue of Liberty. Whether or not this was a real plan is still speculation, as it may have been used to put more members of Malcolm's party behind bars. Both the FBI and local law enforcement agencies were known to use informants within the Nation of Islam and other black activist groups. It's possible that these informants played a role in facilitating the assassination by providing intelligence about Malcolm's whereabouts and movements. This would have enabled the assassins to plan and execute the attack more precisely, while no definitive evidence has emerged to directly implicate police or government agencies in the killing of Malcolm X. These factors provide a basis for the argument that law enforcement, in one form or another, was most likely involved in his assassination, either through active complicity, negligence, or direct influence through COINTELPRO and other surveillance efforts. It is clear that there were members of either the Nation of Islam or, through testimony of Ray Wood, members of the police who were involved in killing Malcolm X on that day.